Bust it.
They present the popular radio program Political Platform on the Ray Power FM network. Ray Power FM Political Platform, now on television. Keep track of the country's polity and be part of the process as they discuss and put political developments in the country into perspective. It's Ray Power Political Platform on AIT Abuja.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Political Platform. Of course, this program is also on AIT in Abuja and AIT International. In the next 30 minutes, we shall be taking you through the length and breadth of the country to update you on issues pertaining to Nigeria's political and economic development. And of course, so many of them are breaking out. Yesterday on this program, we dwelt so much on the letter written, or memo if you want to call it that, written by the Minister of State for Petroleum to the President, alleging corrupt practices by the leadership of the NNPC. Of course, it was on this program that we christened the NNPC the 4 towers of corruption, and from flowouts from that, the developments there, you can agree with us that it is an ATM for anybody that is in control there to enrich any person that they, of course, fancy. It is one organization that is so opaque and a framework is structured to promote and, of course, protect corruption in the country. Of course, allegations that a certain company that is not even registered in Nigeria, Duke Oil, is giving, of course, all the contracts in the NNPC. It's one that we also saw when the last administration was in power, talking about the period designing Alison Madeke held sway. There were also allegations that 1 or 2 companies benefited unduly from contracts. This time around, we are hearing it is to the tune of $25 billion. And the Senate has said they will investigate that, the alleged insubordination of Mekanti Baru, and of course the allegations of corruption and undue preference for indeed a particular company, which we hear has, of course, the sole responsibility of importing and exporting Nigeria's petroleum products. Now, this House of Representatives Committee on Public Petition has issued a bench warrant of arrest against Ibrahim Magu, the acting EFCC chairman. They said they invited Magu severally to appear before it over the case EFCC has with former First Lady and wife of former President Goodluck Jonathan, but he refused to appear. Of course, Nigerians are seeing it from various angles. We shall be taking you through that. And Zara Buhari Dimi, recall her, the daughter of President Muhammad Buhari, who got married not too long ago. She's very active in the social media, and of course, recently she raised issues of the operations of the State House Clinic, a clinic that was allocated about 3 billion naira in the budget recently. Of course, an allocation that is more than all the allocations to other federal health institutions across the country. She questioned why ordinary paracetamol, syringes, and indeed gloves cannot be found in this clinic that is built to cater for the president, the vice president, their families, and staff of the Aso Rock Villa. Of course, so much money going into this hospital, but so much little services coming out. And of course, the Nigerian government, through Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has responded to requests made by, of course, the lawyers of Desanis and Alison Madeke, insisting that indeed she wants to be brought back to Nigeria to face trial, saying they will not do that. They prefer her to be in London. Utibe Omoren, our judiciary correspondent, is joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Amechi. Very interesting times indeed, especially as need for transparency and accountability among public officials is the fundamental focus of this administration. It does appear that President Muhammadu Buhari has found his government put on the spotlight, and a very serious spotlight. I talked about it earlier. We have been in this point before. It's more or less a deja vu. A letter was written some time ago by a former CBN governor making allegations as serious assist one.
$49 billion from NNPC on account.
Exactly. And though it was later reviewed down to $20 billion, and PricewaterhouseCoopers was appointed to do the vetting and the auditing, and eventually was still discovered that certain remittances were not made. Now we found ourselves in this kind of situation, especially at a time when we are hearing that the NNPC has been talking so much about reforms, restructuring, bringing in transparency, and to also crown it all, President Muhammadu Buhari is a substantive Minister of Petroleum Resources. This makes it very important that critical answers are provided for the Nigerian people.
Okay, Uju Ejei is also with us in the studio.
Amechi, I think that there are a lot of issues around NNPC that even the nation may not be able to unravel fully at this point in time. I remember the several times they were invited to the House of Reps and to the Senate during the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. They always had a way of trying to wriggle out of every allegation, and the greatest one was the one of not remitting the right amount to federal government coffers. So it has been an issue for long, and if you talk about alleged fraud, I think that there's a whole lot of skeletons in the cupboards of many people within the corporation.
Adebayo Boduri is also joining us on the program.
Amishi, let me take a look at a different issue completely, and that is very, very worrisome. And that has to do with the hope that was raised about the diversification of our economy, particularly that we will no longer be exporting only crude oil, and that our agricultural produce, as it used to be in the First Republic, will now be, some of them will be exported into Europe and America. And the Federal Executive Council yesterday came out and admitted the fact that there is in existence a law that prohibits the export of agricultural products from Nigeria, certain crops, rice, yam, and all the rest to Europe and America. And what bothers me most is that how can a government not be aware of the law that have been made, that are in existence, that have not been abrogated, and then unfold a policy on exporting agricultural products to Europe is worrisome. Is worrisome, and the fact that the way and manner we even started, particularly the export of yam to London and America, was very, very disturbing. The fact that it takes Ghana less than 9 days in a well-preserved manner to take yam from Ghana to London, for instance. Our own took three months, and by the time the yams got to London, they were rotting.
Is it by the time they got to London, or just when the products were on this high sea that the decay?
They were rotting, and so if we have Federal Ministry of Justice that is what like we call the custodian of all laws in the country, and they are not aware of the existence of a law that was promulgated in 1999.
Yes, during the military.
And the government is now admitting that yes, there was a mistake. We will investigate the matter.
These are some of the issues. You will be coming to that. These are some of the issues our listeners also raised in the emails that we have picked. Let's hear them, then we'll come back to run the analysis.
Hello and welcome to the mail segment. I am Tenikang Akepu.
I'm Osaiti Yari. Welcome.
And we begin with the face-off between the GMD of NNPC and the Petroleum Minister. This is coming from Austin in Wuse, Abuja. He says, the mere fact that Ibe Kachiku has not been allowed access to brief President Muhammadu Buhari on happenings in the NNPC means the president has been sleeping. You can't say he's fighting corruption in the country and he does not know or have an idea of what is happening in the NNPC. The four towers of corruption where billions of dollars exchange hands. President Muhammadu Buhari should wake up to his responsibilities. After all, he is the substantive minister of petroleum and he would be held accountable for any corrupt practices uncovered in the NNPC. God bless Nigeria.
More reactions. Michael Onwigbo in Abuja says, after a careful review of Ibe Kachiku's letter, one cannot but weep for Nigeria, as the letter clearly affirms the strong grip of a cabal in this government and their inefficiencies as a result of poor delegation of powers to the right persons, further making the president more powerful and autocratic. If an organization as important as the NNPC, which Amechi rightly said, generates over 75% of our revenue, operates like this, then APC's anti-corruption war is just a lip service. We are watching to see the actions of the president, which will be an opportunity to prove his sincerity to the fight against corruption, especially in a sector where he is the minister in charge. God help Nigeria.
And Amechi Obochin Kuba Abuja has written on the education minister being flown abroad for treatment of prostate cancer. He says the Minister of State for Education, Professor Anthony Anwuka, battling with prostate and urinary ailments, was flown to the United States for treatment. What a bad news for the ordinary person on the streets of Nigeria who cannot afford to fly out of the country, now that doctors all over the country were on strike for more than 2 weeks. Inasmuch as America is out to grow its economy by all means, I urge the Trump administration to ban Nigerian leaders who have vehemently refused to improve our health system from getting into America for treatment of any ailment. Finally, what moral grounds would President Muhammadu Buhari, who spent over 100 days in a London hospital, have to ask another not to? Let us all put both our financial and human resources together to build a better Nigeria, irrespective of tribe and religion, as sickness knows no religion or tribe. And that's it for the mail segment. Keep sending your mails to politicalplatform@yahoo.com and watch us on YouTube at AIT Political Platform.
Bust it!
They present the popular radio program Political Platform on the Ray Power FM network. Ray Power FM Political Platform, now on television. Keep track of the country's polity and be part of the process as they discuss and put political developments in the country into perspective. It's Ray Power Political Platform on AIT Abuja.
Thank you so much for your mails. Please continue to write out there. Some of our listeners that would just prefer to listen, we urge you to indeed be part of the program by also putting down your thoughts on in form of writing, and of course we'll share it when you send it to us. So many issues to deal with. Where do we start? Let's start from the big one. NNPC Towers, a place that is associated with corruption. When Desani Alison Madeka was the Minister of Petroleum, and when her tenure ended, we are seeing huge allegations of favoritism, certain companies being given the leeway to execute all the contracts that were not awarded through a competitive bid. It's the same thing we're seeing now. Another company that is registered in Panama does not even pay tax to Nigeria, also being said to have been enjoying all the contracts. Of course, allegations of billions of dollars being missing or siphoned away in corruption appear to be associated with the NNPC. So many people said any government in power easily turns NNPC to his ATM, cash cow. So we really need to do something about this NNPC. Some persons, such as the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, has asked Nigerians to kill NNPC before it kills Nigeria.
Very serious issues, I mentioned. We see it flowing from where we stopped before we went on that break. I'm particularly very worried about this kind of news. You talked about the Desiani incident. She's currently being vilified seriously, and a lot of people would say rightly so because of her actions in office as the GMD of the NNPC.
Minister of Petroleum.
Minister of Petroleum, beg your pardon. Now, when the new administration came in, a lot of people expected to see, not to hear these kind of stories, but it's sad that we're actually hearing this kind of stuff. But fundamentally, for me, I think what's also very telling, and the profound paradox in all this is the content of the letter written by Ibe Kachukwu. He says he's been trying to gain access to the president, to brief the president on what's been happening. He's not been able to get access to the president. It goes ahead to validate what has been said, yet to be confirmed by many people, that there may be a cabal of certain interest who are there to serve as a wedge and a barrier, not allowing people, ministers of the president. Kachukwu is not just a minister of the Federal Republic. He is the junior minister to President Buhari on matters of petroleum resources. So he needs constant briefing of his boss as the substantive minister of what is happening. The fact that
he was not allowed to see them as contained in his allegation, speaks a lot about who are the interests beyond Barrow, Mackenzie Barrow, who is the GMD of the NNPC. But at the same time, I think we also have to be cautious because we are yet to hear the side of the NNPC on this part, on the issues, critical issues raised in the memo. And also the fact that the government
hear from the president.
Yes, indeed. The government has yet to come out public to state what it knows or the issues raised by Ibe Kachuku in the memo.
Yeah, I think my worry, some 30-something years ago, legendary star Fela Anikulapo sang a song, basically on NNPC, 2.8 billion naira, oil money missing. And that music, if you play it, many people, up to today, people will still dance. But do we need to dance about activities of NNPC? Do we need to use that music and look at it as if it's just a piece of entertainment? It raises critical questions that in the last 40 years, even in the period of the military regime, remember the oil windfall scandal, or Gulf oil wind scandal. So there has never been any regime in the last 40 years that is not associated with one form of scandal or the other,
with the finances
of the NNPC. What we should agitate for, and I hope President Buhari will do that, is that this matter should be quickly looked into so that at least let Nigerians be aware of what actually transpired. The government is here to speak. The NNPC itself is here to speak.
It's unusual. They must, as a matter of urgency, speak up.
So we should be waiting for NNPC to react, and the president who is the Minister of Petroleum and the head of the government should also be able to make a pronouncement on this issue.
Amici, what is more worrisome is the fact that the NNPC handles the mainstay of the country's economy, 70% of the revenue. And you keep hearing these kind of stories. I remember in the past when the National Assembly had taken them up on it and they said, oh, why they have not been able to remit the kind of huge amounts expected of that kind of corporation with the kind of business that it handles for the country is because the federal government is owing the corporation and they are not servicing the debt. You know, some kind of flimsy excuses. And you look at the kind of money that passes through. It's I don't know how to put it. It doesn't make a lot of sense except to say that, yes, there's more to it than meets the eye. I think that the president, more so that he is the substantive minister of petroleum resources, really has to do something. We understand that he's not been in the best of health, so of course that may have been responsible for a lot of things, but now that God has healed him, he really needs to attend to this area of the Nigerian economy.
I think this should even go beyond the president. Presidents appear to be have their hands tied when it comes to the issue of NNPC, and I wouldn't want just investigation and corporates brought to book and the matter ends when we fold our hands and wait for another scandal to break up. There's a petroleum industry governance bill in the Senate and petroleum industry bill in the House of Representatives. We must, as a matter of urgency, push through these bills. Some of it tries to reform the petroleum industry as a whole, and even talked about bundling the NNPC.
And even reducing the power of the Minister of Petroleum Resources.
We need to dismantle the structure of NNPC, a structure that can create billionaires overnight, a structure that can throw billions of dollars to anybody that the government of the day is happy with their face. But let's quickly go to the Senate. Some ugly revelations of corruption against the Inspector General of Police. Some of them very ugly, that we are struggling on how to couch it and send the message to you, bottling on infidelity with the accuser. Of course, you know him, ISAH, MISAU, the senator who was once a police officer, but which the police authorities described as a deserter, was the one that raised this allegation, saying that amounts exchange hands between officers who want to be given special promotion, and of course the very controversial payments which he alleged runs into billions of naira coming from companies that the police provide security for.
When the law is alleged to have gone against the law, how do you handle such a situation? Ordinarily, in any case, whether civil cases, it's the police that you look up to. That is not to say that the IG is guilty, but I'm worried about this. Ordinarily, as a Nigerian woman or as an African woman, you know that our society has made infidelity not to be a big deal, so to say. But in this case, because it goes against the Police Act, it goes against
that
the law.
Says you must not get married
exactly to a fellow officer, and that is where it has become a problem. And the IG is is a custodian of the law, the one who implements or who enforces. Yes, the chief enforcer of the laws of the land. And this kind of allegation doesn't do his image any good, because it robs him of the moral right to carry out his mandate, in the country. I think that these are very weighty allegations that should be looked into, and the one of course, of the monies. We have talked about it over time, the revenue being generated by sending officers to oil companies, banks, and other companies or corporations. I think that all of these need to be looked into, if only to clean up the image of the IG. Is very important for our country.
My worry is, how do we know the truth? Because
there's a committee of the Senate that will
investigate.
Do we trust them?
Do we trust them? Because the man who made the allegations, who raised the allegations and all the rest, is also is a senator. And if you have a committee of the Senate, there will be doubt about their neutrality in the issue. I think there must be either the Inspector General of Police will speak out, because all this issue is a spokesman, this police spokesman, that have been reacting on some of this issue. Maybe he needs to clear the air too. And but I have a feeling that there must be a neutral body between the senator and the Inspector General of Police to probably let us look into this issue so that the nation will know the truth. I do not think the Senate is in a proper position to wade into this issue and let us and tell the nation the truth, because of the fact that the man who raised it is also a member of the Senate.
Well, Adebayo Bodunri, you also know that it's within the mandate of the Senate
to carry out such investigation. So as the Senate investigating, other institutional mechanisms put in place by law to investigate can also do that.
But Amechi, have you also seen, you talk about maybe another body that could confirm or deny what has been said. You look at the Police Service Commission, and of course the head of that service commission has come up to say, yes, the police does these things. The police actually has it in its laws
to collect money
but the spokesperson of the police says no, it is not true. I mean, how do you reconcile it? When you talk about the person who heading the Police Service Commission, a former IG, a man who for several years are doing in the force, who has been part of the laws, governing the force, and you tell him he's not saying the truth. It doesn't sound right.
Actually, most of the time, I find it curious that most of the time when you find political people in political offices and public officers getting involved in this kind of open squabble, it's always about money. And police has notoriously, historically been seen as a corrupt institution. The politicians
presently a study carried out by the National Bureau of Statistics said this is the most corrupt, followed by the judiciary.
The politicians too are not very trusted in Nigeria. So what is it actually that happened? Was it that some remittances were supposed to be made to some persons? Were they supposed to be beneficiaries out of these so-called monies received by the police that didn't get it at the end of the day, that people got to hear what we are hearing at the moment? But Bayo Bodurin talked about the Senate being in the right position to investigate this. Also know that if you remember back, it was still a police report that indicted some persons in the Senate over an alleged forgery of the rules of the Nigerian Senate. So a battle line had been drawn even before now.
More like what we call in local parlance the rougher fight. Of course, one of our listeners reminded us of the fate of the Minister of State for Education, Professor Nwuka, who was rushed to the U.S. for medical treatment. Now, assuming the problem started while he was in council at the State House Abuja, and he was rushed to the nearby clinic, State House Clinic, which got 3 billion naira as allocation, more than 3 billion naira as allocation in the 2016 budget. And on getting there, he discovers that they can't even administer paracetamol or even give him injections to arrest temporarily his situation because they don't have syringes. What will he say as a minister of the Federal Republic that is part of the policy making process? That tells you the state of the State House Clinic, a clinic that attends to the president, vice president, their families and staff of ASU Rockville. I took Zara Buhari Edimi to, of course, on her Instagram page, question why the situation has gotten to this dismally low level, such that this hospital can't even afford basic equipment and medication. But the permanent secretary of the State House itself, talking about Jala Arabi, has said that the hospital is the only one in Nigeria that offers free service. That henceforth they are thinking of indeed commercializing its operation in such a way that Nigerians can come in and get medical services and make payment and give the hospital the opportunity to indeed begin to earn money. So it tells us that indeed we also need to look at operations of the State House clinics. Getting so much but delivering so little.
Amici, how then do you justify the huge amounts allocated to it in the budget if it has to get to this stage, and where even those living within the ASU Rockville will now begin to pay for services rendered? You see, the case of the State House Clinic, if you look at about 3-4 years ago, I remember some persons I know who were ill. I remember some peculiar drips that they need, you know, the ones for diabetes, some of those serious ailments. And it was only the State House Clinic that could actually administer it to people at that point in time. And I also remember that last year, a friend, you know, a fellow journalist who covers the villa, the child was sick and they took the child there. This same clinic, they could not afford a syringe. They told him to buy Panadol, some drugs, and the syringe before they could treat the child. I was shocked because this is not the State House Clinic that we knew. The State House Clinic that could afford drugs that you couldn't get outside. So what happened between this period and what is going on? And then you have 3 billion, whopping 3 billion. It's a whole lot of money, my brother. That's 3,000 million.
It can build hundreds,
exactly,
if not thousands of primary healthcare centers that can provide these facilities.
Exactly.
We'll continue on this and more tomorrow when we come your way again. Thank you so much for joining us on today's edition. On behalf of the crew, my name is Amechi Anapo. Have a good day.
Bust it.